So, thanks for joining us. This is the first in a series of interviews. I'm Nick Wallin, music director of the Mid-Columbia Symphony. We are going to be joined by several members of the orchestra in a series of interviews. I end up talking a fair amount at concerts, and the members of the orchestra, of course, are playing their instruments. And we thought that you might like to get to know the members of our orchestra a little bit better. So, with the magic of Zoom, we have an interview. I'm joining you from Evanston, Illinois, just outside Chicago. And I have the Hammerstroms, Adella and Don Hammerstrom, principal bassoon and principal trombone. And I'm very happy to have some time to talk with them about the Mid-Columbia Symphony. So, thanks for taking the time tonight.
Thank you, Nick.
So, if you would, please let me know. I'm curious exactly when you joined the orchestra, and since you are husband and wife, did you join at the same time, or how did that really work?
Okay, so when we came over in 1994, I had just had my fourth baby, Bethany, just after arriving a week. So I kept quiet for a while, and then I actually played over in Walla Walla first, probably after a year. I played over there for at least a year, and then got in with the Mid-Columbia. The first program, and I've saved all my programs, was 1999, 98, 98, 99. So I'm thinking with the symphony here, Bethany's 26, probably 24 years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I came here to work, so our family came here to work. I work at Patel still. And I didn't start immediately because I had all of my job duties and other things to do to get the house in shape and to start raising this too fast growing family. So it was about 5 years before I joined, and Adela looked it up for me in 1999, correct?
Yeah.
I joined, and that was an interesting opportunity because my arm was twisted by Martha Stifter after the symphony had gone through a rather tough financial year.
Okay.
And in that prior year, we had many imports who were being paid much more than I would be paid. And we found that we had quite a few talented enough local players to step in and fill some of those positions and displace some of the imports. And I give a lot of credit to Martha to making sure that we saved the symphony that year. And in fact, both myself and Rich Carterby, who plays second trombone, joined that year. So we've played now 20 years with the Mid-Columbia Symphony. I have to say that's about as long as I've ever done anything.
I was going to ask, I mean, you have played principal trombone, and Adela, have you played principal bassoon the entire time?
I started on second bassoon.
Okay.
Yeah, and then eventually moved up. We had a series of first chair players that came and left. Yeah.
And so how many different bassoonists then have you played in a section with over the past 24 seasons?
Oh.
I mean, you don't need to have an absolute number. I'm just curious how many people.
About 4 or 5.
4 or 5, okay. So not a ton of turnover. And Don, you said you've played next to Rich for 20 years?
I've played next to Rich 20 years, and he doesn't miss many concerts, and I have not missed many concerts. We've had some other people in our section, and we've had sections as big as 6 or 7 trombonists at times. So of course we've seen other people, but our section has been one of the steadiest of all for 20 years now.
Yeah, I was going to say we used at least 6 on the Shostakovich last year. I remember. Yeah, that's wonderful. So, so Don, you were mentioning your work. So you don't play the trombone full time. So what else do you do?
I am currently, and have been for 24 years, an electrical engineer for, and I currently work for Patel Memorial Institute at the Pacific Northwest National Laboratory here in the Tri-Cities area. I specialize in power systems, so a lot of the work that we do that I have done have to do with what's being called the smart grid, which is advancing the power grid and making it more responsive, performing more demand response and things like that.
And Adella, tell us about your time when you're not with the symphony.
I have been a stay-at-home mom since baby number one. So that's 31 years, 32, almost 32 years. Yes.
But she's trained, I should add, almost all of the bassoonists coming out of the Tri-Cities for that 20 years as well.
Yeah, I teach lessons here from my home and play in the community, yes.
And
So
where did you...
for many of those years, Don would come home and I would go to rehearsals. So he took care of the kids in the evening. I went to rehearsals. So it got harder when he joined the symphony.
Because then you were both at the same place at the same time.
Right. And I didn't have any child care. So I was fortunate that I had my first Janelle was pretty responsible and she took care of the siblings mostly well. Yeah.
And where did you guys... Oh, go ahead.
I should add, since most people won't know, that the tables were kind of turned because when you first joined, you had many very young children too. And some of our children started caring for yours while we had concerts and rehearsals.
That's right. Bethany, I remember especially, was a babysitter, and she would watch my boys when they were babies early on when I had rehearsals and concerts and they were in town. Yeah, that's a lovely thing to remember. And where did you guys come from when you moved to the Tri-Cities?
Gallatin Gateway, Montana.
Montana.
A small community outside of Bozeman.
Outside of Bozeman?
Outside of Bozeman.
I happened to be teaching high school mathematics and chemistry at the time that we lived in Gallatin Gateway, and I worked in Bozeman at the high school, and transitioned from that. But that's why we were there. We had been in Montana at various locations ever since, and unfortunately have always been in a position where we've been able to play in very good local groups. Some of them symphonies, some of them smaller ensembles. The funniest thing about Bozeman area was they had a summer concert series, and this was a you all come type of audition scenario. So you show up for a rehearsal and then you play the gig. During the summer, this was an outdoor kind of amphitheater park, and the memorable thing is people wouldn't get out of their cars; they would just drive up. So it was a drive-up venue, which that might work again in COVID-19 time.
Right, we might need to do that right now.
So people would honk their horns instead of clapping. But it was just terribly fun because you never know who is going to be in the section, and you had far too little rehearsal, and it was as scary as can be, but a lot of fun at the same time.
Great. So I'm going to ask you now about those combined years, more than 40 seasons, although most of the concerts both of you played together. Tell me about some of your most favorite performances from those years, some of the most memorable things that you've played, things that you like to remember. For any reason, really good reasons or funny reasons, any of those kinds of reasons.
Remembering.
I'll start, I guess. You really brought this one full circle for us this last season because you had a Halloween themed concert as the first one that was one of the funnest ones that we've ever performed, and it was very well received. So most of us dressed up. I as a caveman, and you were a fairy or princess or something.
Yeah.
But the reason I mentioned that is the very first concert I played with the with the Mid-Columbia Symphony, as I said, when they were trying to recover, they put a lot of artistic thought into it. And that also was a Halloween-themed concert at which we played some of the same things that you performed with us. It's just that also was maybe, those were perhaps 1 and 2 as far as just memorable and fun concerts, just because they weren't too heavy and they were very well received.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think for me, probably you also, was the Planets 4 or 5 years ago. And because we have almost all of our family on stage with us. So that was extra special.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, how has it been to have those members of your family sharing the stage and sharing performances, sharing your section for you, Adella?
Right. It's fun. It's just been wonderful. I'm so fortunate to have that. Not many people have that, and very lucky, yes.
We think we are tied with the Sands, Nick, for having the most family members in any one concert.
Yep.
We had 5 of our total 6 people in that Planets concert, sitting within, set of 10 people there, a very small section. And we think that the Sands have also had 5 at one point.
Yeah, so just for people who are watching this who don't know your family quite as well as you guys do, and as I do, tell us about the 5 who were there for the Planets.
That was Janelle, my oldest, playing bassoon, second bassoon. And then I had Amy come in. She's my third, and she was playing third bassoon. And then Bethany was living in Moscow, Idaho, and she came over and played French horn. So she was in the French horn section. Myself and Don. My son Abel was in the audience. He's a musician also. He went the jazz bluesy route with his guitars. But he was there. I think that was all of us.
Very good, just not up in front with the rest of us.
Right.
Right. Well, during COVID times, of course, it's nice to reflect back on moments like that, and also it's a little bit bittersweet for me to think about that, because one of the things that we canceled was our side-by-side concert back in March, and my son Rex was going to come and play. Since we were doing the side-by-side with the Youth Symphony, he was going to come and play and sit with the Youth Symphony musicians on that concert as well. And so I still haven't had that opportunity. So I hope that at some point in the future we can do something like that, and I can make music with my family members on stage as well. Anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers here this month? I'll give a report. Adella's bassoon is in the shop. Tell us about your bassoon.
Well, it's just for maintenance. They closed the shop right after this COVID happened, and so they were 2 months of being closed. So they had to reschedule everyone. And I just got it in the end of July. I don't want to pester them. I've called a couple times now, and they tell me it's done. I just haven't heard when they're shipping it out. But it's just, yes, it's a great opportunity to get your instruments checked over. So that's where it's at. Also, Janelle's is over there, Fox Products.
So when your bassoon comes back, then you and Don are going to offer us a duet.
Yes. Oh, hold on.
So that's something for our viewers to look forward to sometime, maybe next month. When the bassoon comes back from its maintenance, we will hear the Dutch Suite in G major by P.D.Q. Bach. So that's something for everybody to look forward to. So it's just regular maintenance. There's nothing major with the bassoon.
Just getting cleaned up.
I have to say, Nick, having seen and heard more bassoon than nearly anyone else, and even repaired many instruments, the bassoon as a wood instrument needs so much work, and they have to re-whittle their mouthpiece about every week. And I feel so fortunate that I play a brass instrument that was tuned in the shop, so I hardly ever have to do anything with it.
Right. I know what you mean. Instruments that we can take outdoors and play in the rain or the snow without too much trouble. You can't do that. Can't do that with a double reed instrument.
No.
Which brings me back to marching band in Montana, when you had to choose the slide position before you started, because you had about 3 seconds on that position before it would move again.
Yep. I've had some of those cold marching band days where you can kind of pick on your sousaphone. Okay, what valve combination do I want to have? Because it's going to get locked in there when that wind comes right off of Lake Michigan into a football stadium. It'll freeze you right away.
Something you can play a fifth with.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, then you have a bugle. Then you have a bugle, a contrabass bugle for my sousaphone playing days. But in any case, anything else you'd like to share with our viewers this evening?
No.
No, that's fine. I will then simply thank you again for taking the time to talk with us. And as I said when we were off camera, I look forward to an opportunity where we can get together and make music again. We don't know when that's going to be. The board and the Artistic Advisory Committee and your music director, me, and all of our musicians are working and thinking and looking forward to being able to get back together and play music again. So thank you, Adella. Thank you, Don. And thank you to our viewers. That's it for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.